5 Kage Summit Sasuke is weaker than you think. Now don't get me wrong, the dude's a demon, but if you haven't read or watched that arc in a while, you most likely are misremembering what happened and are giving him a lot more credit than he deserves. And I like Sasuke. In fact, he's one of my favorite characters in the whole Naruto franchise, but I'm not about to lie for dude just because he's cold, unlike a lot of other YouTubers I see make videos about him. Don't hate me because I'm the one that said it. Let's be real here. He got a lot, and I mean a lot, of help during the 5 Kage Summit, and most of the fights people say he won or performed well in, he didn't even come out on top or even barely survived the interaction. This isn't going to be a complete analysis of the arc and a rundown of what happened, or even a full power scaling type video at that, but I'm most definitely going to tell you he is not as strong as you all give him credit for. Let's start just out the gate with his record here. During the whole Summit arc against the Kages, he outright won 1 fight, he lost 1 fight, and 3 ended up being inconclusive. Not to mention the numerous times he got life-saving help during all of those battles, which tallies up to a whopping 5 times. Going deeper into those numbers, the one and only fight he 100% won was against Danzo, debatably the weakest of the Naruto era Hokage and the second weakest in the current panel of leaders. Shout out to Mei for that. And the one he outright lost, which wasn't a fair 1v1, I'll give him that, was against Onoki. And finally, the 3 inconclusive fights were A, Gaara, and Mei. Going chronologically, let's get into the specific fights and actually talk about what happened. Starting with the 4th Raikage A, this was the second best fight in the whole arc, and the one that most people often use to blow Sasuke's strength and skill out of proportion. So I'm just gonna get something real simple out of the way instantly. This Raikage he fought was not the same strength as he was in the war during the Madara fight. Plain and simple. Firstly, the fight starts with the Raikage using V1 of the Lightning Cloak, and then later on he goes into V2. Which is still weaker than during the Madara fight because he doesn't have Onoki amping his speed by making him lighter or buffing his strength by making him hit harder. This is something really simple, but there's some weirdo freaks out there who don't understand that concept. During this bout between both of them, Sasuke gets saved by Jugo and Suigetsu after seeing through the Genjutsu from C, fails to pierce the Raikage's cloak once with his lightning release amped sword, slightly pierces his cloak then with a Chidori, gets Liger bombed by the Raikage only being saved by his ribcage Susanoo, which does get cracked from this, and at this point is when the Raikage activates his V2 cloak. So everything before was only from V1, just to clarify. With V2, the Raikage was able to move fast enough to get around and behind Sasuke and crank him with a lateral bolt of death before Sasuke can physically move to attempt dodging it, which he had to rely on his Amaterasu shielded Susanoo in order to protect himself, which barely managed that because it cracked and got pieces broken off of it, sending him to the ground and ultimately was going to be the end of him if the Raikage landed that guillotine drop on him, but he got saved by Gaara. Well, technically both the Raikage and Sasuke got saved because the Amaterasu would have covered the Raikage killing him most likely, and the attack itself would have most likely killed Sasuke. Even the Raikage said he, as in Sasuke, was quote unquote finished, but you know, Gaara stepped in and that was that. His next notable fight, which would be against Mei, he got trapped and had nowhere to go and he was going to be melted by her. Like his Susanoo, the greatest defensive thing he has in his arsenal, started melting and globbing off instantly after Mei used her acid mist, which that, along with him trying to use a more advanced version of the Susanoo but ultimately couldn't, made him fall to the ground with his skin starting to burn off, and only survived this because of White Zetsu started sucking the chakra from every person in the conference room, including Mei and the Kage guards, to give it all to Sasuke, allowing him to gain enough strength to stand his sorry ass up and break through the wall, re-entering the meeting. Unfortunately for him, Onoki's there and hits him with a particle style that Sasuke couldn't react fast enough to try evading. This whole sequence, while I counted as 2 separate fights, one with Mei and one with Onoki, even though the Onoki one didn't have much content or battle at all, it's 2 losses against Kages for Sasuke in the Summit run of his, although once again I'll admit, the Onoki one is debatable that it's even a fight to begin with, but you know, my interpretation, my video, my rules. Then we all know what happens. He goes on to get fully revived and healed up by Karin in the Kamui dimension, then proceeds to beat Danzo into unaliving himself. Now, hearing that, It doesn't sound too good for Sasuke at all. Even me saying it out loud and hearing it back, kind of like a yikes that Sasuke really is out here getting praised and unbelievably hyped up over this whole arc. Don't get me wrong though, I do believe he had some feats. I mean, even surviving up until the end of the whole summit is a feat in itself that not many characters up until this point could have achieved. Like, you think Shikamaru or Sai is gonna do that well? Hell no. So yes, there are some feats and upplays you can most definitely give Sasuke from this, but you aren't gonna sit here and tell me or others that Sasuke cleared the summit or did it with no help, or won every fight, or even won half of the fights, cause it just didn't happen. His record is 1 win, 1 loss, and 3 inconclusive fights, and there's very little wiggle room in that for change. I don't want this to just be a hate video either, so let's look at some positive for Sasuke in this arc and some of his greatest moments. Firstly, probably the most impressive thing he did in the whole summit was finally making Karin shut up. I mean, if I had to sit through one more inner dialogue of her glazing Sasuke for just standing, I think my fist was going through my monitor, I won't lie to you. Other than that, he also figured out how Danzo's Izanagi arm works and pierced the Raikage's lightning cloak, which is cool too, I guess. Oh, and if you look like 2019 Doja Cat, Suits era Meghan Markle, or even just any female of legal age with a Mewtwo type build and tattoos, hit me up. Hey, I just created a Discord for my community to join up so we can talk Boruto, Naruto, MHA, Demon Slayer, whatever series I know and that you guys know, so we can chop it up in VC or just text. And if you're a channel member, you get private channels to talk to and join up, so check all that out and all of my other socials linked in the description. If you haven't subscribed, do it. I'm on the road to 2K now, I guess, so that's pretty hype, man. I appreciate it. Other than that, have a good day.